How big a factor is Greece going to be, assuming this deal goes through? Is Greece going to be in terms of its impact on the world? In terms of international markets? Is it a year ago it seemed to be a huge issue? Is it still as big, or have expectations been adjusted? And do you know enough about the measures that they're thinking to implement to try to dig Greece out of this mess?
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that private sector bondholders are already on the hook for a 75% loss, I think speaks volumes. I mean, there's only so much lower we can go at this point. I mean, the short answer is I think that Greece will increasingly become less of a factor for financial markets. I suspect it's still going to be a thorn for quite a while, but it will increasingly become a less important thorn for financial markets. I mean, to be quite frank, this was never completely about Greece. It was more about the possibility if Greece did leave in a disorderly fashion, what could happen to other economies in Europe? Would Portugal then leave? Would then maybe even worst case scenario Italy or Spain be forced out or forced into taking a big bailout as well? It was never completely about Greece. I mean, I don't mean to brush off Greece because they somehow managed to borrow about $500 billion worth of debt, which is a huge number. But Greece, let's face it, is not big enough alone to do serious damage. I mean, it was over the fact that the concerns about contagion to the rest of Europe, and slowly but surely, I mean, they've given the banks room to basically get ready for a Greek default and possibly a Portuguese default as well. They've given them a bit more breathing room to try to strengthen themselves and basically prepare the way for the worst case scenario from Greece. And really, that's what this was always about: was buying time and making sure they were ready to support the other economies and the banks in Europe if there was a hard default in Greece. But here I'm hoping against hope, but I think Greece will become less of a factor for financial markets. But as you said at the outset, we saw it yesterday. You can never say never with Greece. They can still cause a little bit of mischief.
Thank you.
Any other yes, gentlemen?